All right, well, hello everybody. My name is Christopher Scott, and I blog at thechristopherscottblog.com. And every week I teach a few different Bible studies through our church, Rocky Hill Community Church. And this week's study was in Revelation chapter 12, verses 7 through 12. And there was a lady who wanted to attend but couldn't make the study and really wanted to know what we covered. So I told her, you know what, I'm going to record the video. That way she can watch the video when she gets back from vacation. So I'm going to go ahead and walk through Revelation 12, verses 7 through 12. And we'll talk through the passage and do a little teaching and give some applications for the passage. So I'm going to be reading from the New Living Translation, Revelation 12. So I'll go ahead and read the passage, and then we'll go through verse by verse and cover it. So Revelation 12, verse 7, I'm reading from the New Living Translation, where it says, "Then there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon and his angels, and the dragon lost the battle, and he and his angels were forced out of heaven. This great dragon, the ancient serpent called the devil, or Satan, the one deceiving the whole world, was thrown down to the earth with all his angels. Then I heard a loud voice shouting across the heavens, 'It has come at last, salvation and power, and the kingdom of our God, and the authority of his Christ. For the accuser of our brothers and our sisters has been thrown down to earth, the one who accuses them before our God day and night. And they have defeated him by the blood of the Lamb and the word of their testimony. And they did not love their lives so much that they were afraid to die. Therefore rejoice, O heavens, and you who live in the heavens rejoice. But terror will come on the earth and the sea, for the devil has come down to you in great anger, knowing that he has little time.'" That's Revelation chapter 12, verses 7 through 12. And this is a well-known passage here in chapter 12 that talks about this woman and the dragon and their battle. And the first two verses in chapter 12 talk about the woman who is pregnant and she's about to give birth, and then this dragon, who is Satan the devil, pursues her, and we work through that. And then here, it's a little battle between Michael and the dragon in heaven. So let's go ahead and take it verse by verse and go through it. So in verse 7, chapter 12, verse 7 of Revelation says, "Then there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon and his angels." Okay? And so that Michael is a well-known angel throughout the Bible. He's known in Daniel and the book of Jude as an archangel. He's one of the most powerful angels described in the book of Revelation, and he's particularly known for being the protector or preserver of the nation of Israel. He has a mighty authority. He does battle. Jude talks about how Michael fights against Satan over Moses' body, things like that. So he is a powerful and influential angel throughout the book. He shows up here, again, doing battle against Satan in the end times. Okay? Then verse 8, it says, "And the dragon lost the battle, and he and his angels were forced out of heaven." Okay? I don't know about you, but I wish I could learn a lot more about this battle in heaven. This is kind of a short verse. The dragon lost the battle, and he and his angels were forced out of heaven. Okay? Just real brief, doesn't say how long it went, what they did, were there swords involved, lasers, I don't know, but it sure would be cool to get to learn and hear more about this battle, but we don't get told much. Then in verse 9 it continues on, "This great dragon, the ancient serpent called the devil, or Satan, the one deceiving the whole world, was thrown down to the earth with all his angels." All right? So it describes for us who this dragon is. The dragon that was introduced at the beginning of chapter 12, and this dragon that is again mentioned and thrown out of heaven. It talks about, gives them 3 or 4 different descriptions here. And so I have a little alliteration for this dragon. He is without a doubt the devil, right? That's very, very clear. He's talked about how he's the ancient serpent. He's the devil. He is Satan. He is the one deceiving the whole world, right? So John, as he's seeing these visions in the book of Revelation, this is without a doubt the devil, right? Can't be anyone else. And John even says it here in 3 or 4 different ways. He's trying to say that dragon, the ancient serpent in Genesis 3, the devil talked about by Jesus throughout the Gospels, Satan, the one who's described that way in the Old Testament with the Hebrew word Satan, the one who deceives the whole world, that is the dragon, right? That is him, right? So I have a little alliteration here and a little brief word study that I made for our small group, a brief study on Satan. It basically says there's the names of God's nemesis that we read about here, okay? He's the ancient serpent, he is the devil, Satan, and he has other names based on his work. He's called, throughout the New Testament, he's called the tempter, the evil one, the prince of demons, the father of lies, a murderer, things like that, right? So we have names of God's nemesis. Then we have the fall of God's foe, okay? Some people might see this battle with Michael and the dragon as something that happens way back in Genesis 6, or even before Genesis 6, way back, even before the Bible begins talking in Genesis 1. So that's kind of the two views here. I seem to see this as a battle between Michael and Satan during the 7 years of tribulation that the book of Revelation talks about. So this battle seemed to occur midway through the 7 years of tribulation, and it's in this battle that Michael and his angels kick Satan out of heaven and cast him down to earth. So we've got, in our little brief study of Satan here, there's the names of God's nemesis we covered, the fall of God's foe. So this event in Revelation 12 seems to kind of reflect maybe a battle that also occurred earlier in the Bible, in Genesis or even before Genesis, but that doesn't seem to be the whole event that's being described here. This seems to be a future event being described. And then there's the position of God's provoker, okay? The position of Satan. He is the god of this world. He reigns over a hierarchy of malignant spirits, the New Testament says, in Matthew, Revelation, and Ephesians. And Satan still has access to God's throne, as we see in the book of Job, as well as Zechariah 3 and Luke 22, and then here in Revelation. Then we have the activities of God's adversaries. So Satan is on earth, and he has certain activities. He wants to tempt and seduce people, which we see all the way back to Genesis 3 in the Garden of Eden. And we see that in chapter 4 of Matthew, where Jesus goes to the desert and tempts Jesus, and Satan tempts Jesus in several different ways. Another activity of Satan is he is to deceive, falsify, and counterfeit things. He is to destroy. He's to war against believers and the church daily. So those are just some of the activities. I'll have a blog post up on this passage later with some of these handouts and notes. Or if you wanted to take notes and put them in the comments here, that's fine too. So we have the names of God's nemesis. He's the ancient serpent, the devil, Satan. Then we have the fall of God's foe that seems to be lightly described in this passage. Not directly, it's kind of maybe pulling in a few historical events that happened. Then we have the position of God's provoker, that he is the god of this world. He reigns over a hierarchy of malignant spirits. He still has access to God's throne. And then we have the activities of God's adversary. Okay, he is someone who tempts and seduces. He wants to deceive, falsify, and counterfeit. He wants to destroy people, and he wants to war against believers and the church. So that's just a little brief study on Satan, since he is mentioned here in chapter 12, verse 9 so clearly. So let's go on to verse 10 here. And in verse 10 it says, "Then I heard a loud voice shouting across the heavens," right? Shouting across the heavens. And I call verses 10, 11, and 12 in chapter 12 of Revelation, verses 10 through 12, I call this the heavenly roar, because Satan is cast out of heaven down to earth permanently. And then you have this heavenly roar, kind of like a group of fans would do at a football game or a basketball game when their team wins the game, right? There's this heavenly roar. So it says, "Then I heard a loud voice shouting across the heavens, 'It has come at last, salvation and power and the kingdom of our God and the authority of his Christ. For the accuser of our brothers and sisters has been thrown down to the earth, the one who accuses them before God day and night.'" Okay, seems to be the connection here. This is the heavenly roar. Some of these verses get pretty long. Interesting. It's a big, long roar that they are doing here. So, talk about this salvation and power. And then it says now. It's kind of like as soon as Satan is cast out of heaven down to the earth, then they pronounce that the end times are coming, that the final events of the end of the world are occurring, and they're ready for the salvation and power of God to finally reign on earth. And this event of Satan being cast down to the earth is part of that plan. Okay? Then in 11, verse 11, we have the godly trifecta that I call, and it says, and they have defeated him. So the believers have defeated Satan, that's the they, and they have defeated him by the blood of the Lamb and by their testimony, and they did not love their lives so much that they were afraid to die, right? So there's three things here. They defeated Jesus by the blood of the Lamb. It's through the sacrificial death of Christ that they have defeated him, and through their testimony about Jesus that they have defeated Satan, and it's through their lack of fear to die. They're not afraid to die because they know about their eternal security and where they're going. That's the godly trifecta that I like to talk about there. Okay? Then in verse 12, it says, therefore rejoice, O heavens, and you who live in the heavens rejoice. But terror will come on the earth and on the sea, for the devil has come down to you in great anger, knowing that he has little time. Okay? So therefore rejoice, O heavens. The heavens can rejoice because Satan is not allowed there anymore. Yet terror will come on the earth and the sea. So it's okay to celebrate if you're in heaven, but if you're on earth, there's still some bad stuff that's going to be described in the book of Revelation that happens in the very next chapter, in chapter 13, with the beast of the sea and the beast of the earth that both come up. And then the mark of the beast and the things that happen after that. And then there's 7 bowl judgments even after that. So there's still bad things, and it seems to be that Satan knows he has little time left on the earth, and he is really going to persecute God's people and the earth as much as he possibly can during that time. So there's 2 applications that I can give with this passage. One is that God is somewhere I belong. It's through death, burial, and resurrection Jesus Christ and through our belief in him that we get to live where God lives eventually in heaven, right? That God is somewhere that we get to be, and it's through our belief in him, the blood of the Lamb, through our testimony, and the fact that we're not afraid to die, that we get to eventually live with God in heaven. The second application is that Christ is the basis of our victory, that these people who have this heavenly roar, that it's not through the works of the people or their behavior or things like that. It's through Christ's work on the cross that we get to have that life, right? So it kind of relieves the pressure on us as Christian believers. So that's a brief little exposition of Michael versus the dragon in Revelation 12, verses 7 through 12. This is just a chance to get to share this material here on Facebook for Connie, who couldn't make our Bible study this week. So you don't get to benefit from the discussion of the passage, but get to have a little 13-minute video here. If you're curious to learn more about the book of Revelation, I have a lot of Bible studies that I put online. I think I'm up through chapter 11, so I have the first 11 chapters put on my blog, and I'll put a link in the little comments section there if you'd like to learn more about the book of Revelation. We're welcome to leave comments, questions, and talk more there. Thanks again. And my name is Christopher Scott. Hope to share some more videos with you soon.